Forget the pharaohs for a moment. Forget the golden tombs and towering pyramids. Picture instead a fisherman, knee-deep in the Nile, throwing his net into the current as the morning sun turns the river to gold. A woman grinding grain in the courtyard of her mud-brick home. Children laughing as they chase a hoop through the dusty streets of Thebes. This, not the glittering temples or royal processions, was the real Egypt. A land of ordinary people who lived, worked, loved, and dreamed along the eternal Nile. For over 3,000 years, life in Egypt flowed with the river's pulse. Each year, the Nile flooded, spreading black silt that made the desert bloom. When it rose, farmers celebrated. When it failed, famine followed. The Egyptian calendar, one of the world's first, was built around the Nile's moods. And while kings carved their names in stone, the farmers carved furrows in the earth, feeding a civilization that would outlast them all. By sunrise, the fields were alive. Farmers plowed using oxen, sowed barley and wheat, and tended to flax for linen. Children scared birds from the crops while women brewed beer. Yes, beer was their daily drink, safer than the water itself. When the harvest ended, taxes were due, not in coins, but in grain, oil, and livestock. And if the Nile failed to flood, the tax still came. In that way, life in Egypt was both a gift and a gamble. A typical Egyptian home wasn't made of stone, but mud brick, baked by the same sun that painted the sands. Inside, simple rooms, reed mats, clay pots, and walls painted with ochre or whitewash. Most families slept on raised beds or woven mats. At dawn, the air filled with the smell of bread baking, flat loaves made from barley and emmer wheat, often sweetened with dates or honey. The Egyptians loved cleanliness. They bathed daily using natron, a kind of natural salt soap, and shaved their heads to keep cool and avoid lice. Perfumes and oils weren't just luxuries, they were everyday essentials. Even the poorest used scented oils to soften their skin in the desert air. Fashion? Men wore short linen kilts. Women wrapped themselves in long, pleated dresses. Linen was their fabric of choice, cool, white, and symbolizing purity. And for jewelry, copper, faience, and gold, because even in hardship, the Egyptians adored beauty. Work in ancient Egypt could be grueling, but it wasn't all sweat and stone. Farmers, fishermen, potters, scribes, builders, priests, every class had its role in maintaining ma'at, the balance of the universe. The scribes were among the elite, the keepers of writing, knowledge, and law. Their tools, a reed brush, an ink palette, and papyrus. Without them, there would be no record of the pharaohs, no hymns to the gods, no stories of eternity. But the builders, too, left their mark. Archaeologists have uncovered worker villages near the pyramids, complete with bakeries, breweries, and dormitories. These weren't slaves, as once believed. They were skilled laborers, fed well, honored, and paid in rations of beer and bread. When the day's labor ended, Egyptians found joy in simple pleasures. They danced to flutes and harps, played board games like sonnet, and told stories by lamplight. Their favorite pastime? Fishing and hunting along the riverbanks, not just for food, but for fun. But every action, every ritual, every meal carried spiritual weight. The Egyptians lived in a world woven with gods. Ra, the sun god, sailed his golden bark across the sky by day and through the underworld by night. Osiris ruled the realm of the dead. Isis, his wife, the goddess of magic and motherhood. Even cats were sacred, living symbols of Bastet, the protector of home and family. Death was not an end, it was a journey. For the farmer or the pharaoh, life was preparation for the next world. The Book of the Dead, filled with spells and prayers, guided the soul through the perils of the afterlife. Before Osiris, one's heart was weighed against the feather of truth. A heart heavy with sin was devoured by a monster, half lion, half crocodile. But a pure heart lived forever among the stars. To the Egyptians, eternity was not reserved for kings. It was a hope shared by everyone, from the scribe's apprentice to the humble bread maker. When we think of Egypt, we see monuments, colossal, immortal. But the true soul of this civilization lies not in the stone, but in the stories of those who lived between the pyramids and the Nile. Their laughter still echoes through ancient courtyards. Their fingerprints remain pressed into the bricks of time. And though their names are lost to history, their world still breathes. In every carving, every hieroglyph, every silent tomb. The pharaohs built for eternity. But it was the ordinary Egyptians who made eternity possible. Soft music swells, fade out to desert sunset over the Nile.